So good afternoon, Ruth. Thank you for taking some time out to get involved in this week's Business Owner Spotlight. Would you like to introduce yourself and let us know what it is you do?
Yes, absolutely. My name's Ruth Harron, and I founded the company Teachers in UAE back in 2010. So basically, I primarily bring teachers from all around the world to teach in the UAE, so across Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, and all Emirates. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
And in 2010, what was the catalyst for the business being born?
Yeah, good question. So I actually went out to teach in 2008 and went out with my young daughter at the time. So she was probably about 3.5. And I did my 2-year contract out there and was moving back home, and people were saying, look, you're coming back to a recession, you're mad. So because everything was going well in the UAE. So I decided then, I realized there was a shortage of teachers within the schools group I was with and across the Emirates. So I thought I would come back and send teachers across. So luckily I sort of signed a few contracts before I left, and that was it. Just started working for them and just developing tenders and getting business with other schools as I went along.
It sounds really interesting. I want to circle back to that in a second, but who would be your target market then? Who would you most like to speak to?
Well, teachers basically,
Sure.
all levels, from KG right through to specialist subjects. I've recently just taken on a tender for state schools over there. So the recent tender was for 355 teachers for 700 schools. So the scale is massive. Now, my sort of bread and butter is the international schools and private national schools, and the vacancy lists aren't as big for those schools, but still all sort of subject fields. I'm sort of looking for teachers of all, age groups and things to go out.
So it's not placing 10 or 20, it's hundreds of people in.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And is there a specific, obviously teachers, but is there a specific, like an age group that it helps, or is there specific subjects that you would look to recruit in?
Yes, good question again. I mean, STEM subjects, they're really crying out for people in those sorts of subject lines, and also the age group. It's a difficult one. They don't go against you with age, but it's sort of the 20 to sort of 45 for moving internationally would be the sort of age range. And obviously with bachelor degrees, masters preferably, not essential, but you need the teaching experience behind you as well.
Of course. So so it sounds like a pretty competitive and pretty big market. I'm just keen though to understand. So you're out there with your young daughter. Your contract's up. You're about to come home, and you realise that there's a bit of a shortage. And you just got on with signing a couple of tenders. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it was with the school I initially, because I was asked to stay on, and I thought, I needed the family circle around me. It was very difficult. I was there on my own. So I have to say that was the reason for coming back. So I had a really good relationship with that school, and they have 6 campuses across the Emirates. So their vacancy list just themselves would be 100 to maybe 150 teachers every year. So that was the first tender, and then your name sort of gets around, and I developed a website back in 2010, and LinkedIn was a great source for me. I mean, I think I'm up to maybe 97,000 followers now. It's just built up organically, which is crazy. So bit by bit, I get approached by other schools, French schools, international schools, and then this tender for ADEC, which is the educational council out there, an Emirates school establishment, was actually through a contact in my initial school who was the superintendent there, and he sort of recommended me. So it's been you start to get the network out there, and I do trips over and make sure that they sort of know who I am. But the other thing is, Scott, it's just giving good quality teachers and giving a good service to teachers as well, because a lot of people don't know what they're going to, and I only work with good schools who treat the teachers well. There's good accommodation, good support system, because otherwise they don't know what they're going to.
Yeah, so you've in business terms, you've kind of positioned yourself at the top part of the market then.
Yes.
But I'm keen to understand, because that wouldn't just have been I'll just get a few tenders. How did you go from, in your mind, you're a teacher, to now you're a business owner who is actually signing, government bodies up.
Yeah, I know. Well, we actually lived in the UAE in the 90s. I should probably throw that in. So we as a family went out there. So I had to sort of the experience there and knew what the culture was about. So that's the reason for going out and teaching. But I'd also done a business studies degree at university. So there was always an element of me that liked business, went into teaching then, and really wanted to be flexible with a young daughter, that I could be mum full time, because I've been able to work everything around being a mum, drop-offs, pickups, activities, not missing anything basically, which, it's not easy for a lot of people, but that was my choice of things. So yes, it's just been giving good service really. And I think that's how the big government tender came in, because this particular superintendent moved into position there in government and said, look, Ruth Harron has worked well with us for 13 years. So we'll recommend her. And I had to open a business license out in Dubai to do the government one. So there was a couple of hoops to jump through for that. So I've just returned about 3 weeks ago, and basically that requires you to have a lot of sponsors and people to sign up on your behalf. But I'm now a UAE resident, which is great. So I didn't have that initially, but it's great. So I can come and go now quite freely, and it just means you can pick up other government tenders quite easily, bank accounts and things out there. So it all makes sense.
So that all sounds quite niche to UAE, but actually I'm thinking, the parallels are the same in the broader terms. That superintendent, there was enough, your name, your credibility was good enough that he can pass you work. And, for somebody in Belfast or Northern Ireland, they can leverage those parallels as well. If they do good work, they can ask for referrals, and they can build a business roughly the same way. Absolutely,
yes. And that's how it just all took off. And then the other thing is, a lot of the GCC countries like Saudi, Qatar, I mean, it's very similar system, it's very similar contracts. So that's the sort of next step for me, to branch out into these markets. As long as I'm comfortable with them and I know which schools they're going to, it just means I can replicate quite quickly.
Yeah. So what about yourself then, Ruth? Again, it's been, I imagine, a bit of a journey for you, and it seems to have gone quite quickly. You had a good fast start. But what have you picked up along the way? What have you learned about yourself since becoming a business owner?
Just to keep at it, really. I mean, there's been a lot of times where people have said, oh, are you not worried about working with a different country internationally? Are you making enough? Because there's definitely been a few years where, I've maybe had 5 or 6 teachers lined up to go amongst a few, and maybe everything's happened at the last minute, that there's been illness with a family or someone's decided not to go. So you're really relying on everything working, because it's a fee-based business, which means you only get paid when your candidate arrives and they do their probationary period. So there's definitely a bit of challenge where people say, look, it's quite stressful for you. But, as the audience grew and the tenders came in, you get a bit more sort of hope and confidence behind you that, this is worthwhile. And then before you know it, things are happening. You go, oh, actually, I could now reinvest into my website. I can, I'm looking at doing some sort of AI part with the website now, maybe to do a bit of a career path for people who are maybe going over there and want to know, look, which schools should I pick, which area, which schools should my children go to. So I'm developing in different ways as well. But yes, there's been challenging times I always had the day job at Queen's, which was I supported students doing mental health support there. So I always kept that, as flexible as that was as well, I kept that in the background. But this has just been the time now. I think my daughter's now 18. She's doing her A-levels currently, and things have just eased up a bit. So yeah, no, it's been good.
Yeah, and what about in terms of more broadly, what if you were to start your business again, and you mentioned there reinvesting once you became confident, but is there anything there you would do differently if you had your time again?
Not really, because I think I dedicated the right amount of time and effort for what I had with a young child and things. And I think your time comes eventually, good things come to those who wait, and things that just keep it ticking over. I mean, now I'm really excited about how it's developing. I don't know whether I would have been able to do as many trips or throw my time into it as much back then. And as I say, I needed the stability of the day job to
Sure.
make sure that, you know, everything worked out. So yes, I would say I have a lot more time now, in terms of, and I can probably take a few more risks. I've got myself into a position where, you know, I can maybe think about employing somebody over there to
Yeah.
take on a lot of the work, because it's me, myself and I, Scott. I basically do all the marketing, I do all the recruitment process, I do all the contact with the candidates, the clients. So you know yourself, when you work for yourself, it's 24/7. You're opening emails as soon as you wake up, you're checking them before you go to bed. So I put a lot of time into it, I must admit, and it's hard for me to sort of switch off when I get away on holiday, because you're thinking, a couple of teachers are getting in touch and they could possibly be leaving next week. And so, yes, but I don't think I'd do anything differently. It's all just been a nice pace where I'm not looking back and thinking I've burnt myself out early. But yeah, so
it sounds like, as you say, it's your time now, and it sounds like it's quite exciting and it's growing at a nice rate. So what does the future look like over the next maybe 3 years, and what do you see as the main challenges moving forward?
okay, yeah, so what I expect in the next few years is just to sort of streamline the website a bit more, and also, as I mentioned, that AI development. So I just need to keep up with the times as well, that, you know, there's a lot of things out there now that can override a lot of sort of processes. So keeping up with all that. Challenges, I suppose, just making sure I know what I'm doing that way whenever artificial intelligence, and keeping up, because it's very easy to stick with your old sort of methods and that sort of thing. So I'm keeping my hand in different things, and you know, having a young daughter is quite good, because you get savvy with the old, like, social media and TikTok and all the rest, because it's the way people are looking at things now.
Keeps you on your toes. An
Keeps me on my toes, definitely.
Well, listen, Ruth, thank you so much for taking some time out and taking us through your story so far. Sounds like it's just really beginning and about to go to the next level for you. So wish you well with that, and thank you again for today.
Thank you so much, Scott.